Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. What I'm about to share isn't just history, it's survival wisdom that kept entire villages alive during some of the harshest times Europe had ever seen. Today, we're talking about 5 WWII prepper techniques that weren't just clever, they were life-saving. This isn't fluff for documentaries or museum tours. These were real strategies ordinary people used to stretch every seed, every loaf, every ounce of food. If you care about historical insight and practical prepper knowledge, this is for you. Communities mastered crop rotation to cheat the seasons. During WWII, most European villages couldn't rely on imported food. Fertilizers were scarce, so peasants had to make soil productivity last. Crop rotation wasn't just theory, it was the difference between a year of famine and a year of plenty. Villagers divided their land into sections, planting nitrogen-fixing crops like beans or clover in one section, root vegetables like carrots and turnips in another, and grains elsewhere. The result? Soil stayed fertile, and yields increased steadily. To apply this today, start by mapping your garden into zones and assigning crops strategically. Even a small backyard plot benefits from alternating legumes, leafy greens, and root vegetables. Rotate each section yearly and watch soil health improve without synthetic fertilizers. During WWII, this simple discipline allowed peasants to harvest enough to feed their families through winter and spring lean months. Preserving harvests wasn't optional, it was survival. Villagers didn't just grow food, they became experts in preservation. Root cellars, pickling and fermenting were everyday skills. Potatoes, carrots and beets would be stored in cool, humid cellars lined with sand or straw. Cabbages and cucumbers were transformed into sauerkraut or pickles, often in large ceramic crocks buried in the ground. This wasn't just about storage, it was about nutrition. Fermentation added vitamins that were crucial when fresh produce wasn't available. You can replicate this by creating a small root cellar or even using insulated containers in your basement. Fermenting vegetables in glass jars with brine is low-tech, but incredibly effective. Even today, these methods reduce waste, extend food shelf life, and prepare you for unexpected supply shortages. WWII peasants didn't have supermarkets, but they rarely went hungry because they mastered preservation. Using overlooked plants kept families fed when staples ran out. During wartime, staples like bread and potatoes often ran short, but peasants turned to wild plants and weeds. Dandelion leaves, nettles and chickweed were regularly harvested. These plants were nutrient-dense, easy to grow, and often overlooked by the occupying forces. Some villages even cultivated fast-growing grains and root vegetables specifically for human consumption during shortages separate from livestock feed. For modern preppers, incorporating wild edibles into your food strategy is a survival skill worth learning. Identify edible weeds in your region, plant quick-growing microgreens, or keep a section of your garden for secondary crops that can thrive even in poor soil. These techniques don't just echo history, they're practical for self-reliance. Intercropping and layered planting maximised limited space. WWII-era peasants often had tiny plots but needed to grow enough to survive. They used intercropping, planting complementary crops together to make every square metre count. Tall corn stalks might shade beans, while radishes and lettuce occupied the same soil surface. This created microclimates, reduced pests, and increased overall yield without extra labour. To implement this today, experiment with vertical planting and companion crops. Tomatoes over basil, carrots under onions, or beans climbing sunflowers can mimic historical strategies. It's not just an efficient garden design, it's a proven survival technique that allowed villagers during WWII to feed more mouths with less land. Saving seeds ensured the next season wouldn't fail. Finally, WWII peasants understood that every seed counted. Saving seeds from the best crops each year created a self-sustaining cycle. Families would select vegetables that perform well in their local conditions and store seeds in cool, dry places, ensuring that the next season would be even stronger. This practice reduced dependency on external sources and created resilience against crop failures. You can replicate this by drying seeds from your best produce and labelling them carefully. Heirloom varieties are particularly resilient, and storing them correctly guarantees a supply for future planting. This principle of seed saving is timeless. It's exactly why peasants could keep villages fed through multiple winters without commercial input. These 5 tricks, strategic crop rotation, food preservation, using overlooked plants, intercropping and seed saving, weren't just clever hacks, they were lifelines. They show that survival doesn't require high-tech tools, just knowledge, discipline, and the willingness to observe and adapt. As historians and survival enthusiasts, we can learn directly from their experience. If you found this guide valuable, make sure to subscribe to The Prepper Historian and share this video. Not just to preserve knowledge, but to empower a new generation with the same resilience and resourcefulness that kept entire villages fed during the toughest times in human history.